Oops, we're playing vampire game now. Like, I downloaded, what was it? I downloaded Vampire Blood Hunt earlier, but I didn't play it just yet, but I kinda downloaded it, like, just off of, kinda off of some hype. Cause I was watching Selman play that earlier, and it looks pretty fun. Like, Moon's kinda neat. And all that, although I hear balancing is in a rough spot, but then again, it's early access, and well, take it with a huge amount of salt where the game will go with early access, but I'm like, you know what? It seems like it has potential, so you know what? I want to try it out. Whether on stream or not, I don't know. Maybe I just do as like, maybe I just keep it off stream for a chill thing for myself. None of my friends are interested in it, that's for sure. The ones that would be interested in a battle royale, they're busy playing Naraka Blade Point right now. Cause they just hate most traditional shooter battle royales. So yeah. Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. My headphones don't feel right now. What's going on? Oh yeah, wait. Let me. I need to pull out Discord real quick. Oh, that's weird. Huh. Clicking outside of the game window still clicks in game. Interesting. But yeah, I just need to keep an eye on Discord because I asked a friend something and I'm wondering when he'll get back to me about certain thing. Nothing too important, but yeah. Oh, okay. I still can't quite believe what just happened. I know. I inquired with the bailiff after the court session was adjourned, and it seems Mr. Vigil was taken to hospital to recover. Right. 10 years ago now, Mr. Vigil attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window of the prison governor's office. But ever since then, he's completely blocked the memory of those events from his mind. Nobody knew his secret, not his family, not even the man himself. But I forced it out into the open. Was it wrong of me to do that? That I overstepped the mark, I wonder. Runo! Hey. Oh, Iris. You were miles away. Anyway, I brewed a fresh pot of soothing tea for you. Oh, thank you. You and Susie have had an exhausting day so far, haven't you? Oh. Thank you, Iris. How thoughtful of you. Did you happen to know where Mr. Sholmes is? When we came out of the courtroom back into the defendant's antechamber, he disappeared. Oh, no, I don't know. He just suddenly sprang to his feet and left. All he said was, I must leave. I wonder what he's pursuing, the mystery, I wonder if he's pursuing the mystery of Inspector Gregson's death. Well, you know what Hurley's always saying, don't you? There are mysteries in this world that should perhaps never be solved. For the construction of a solution comes only at the expense of the destruction of something else. What does that mean? He knows very well that when you open someone else's old wounds, you often open your own too. But he just can't take his own advice and leave well alone. Solving mysteries is too important to him. That's so true. But that's what I like about Hurley after all. I suppose that's a lot of a great detective in some ways. So then, let's have tea, and then I'll give you a hand. Oh, you have time, Iris? Yes, I'll finish this month's manuscript at last, with barely a day to spare before the deadline. Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. A brand new story to read in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. You know, I always hide Hurley's violin in the days before I have a deadline. You do? Poor Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure that's very wise, Iris. How sensible of you. Now then, my dear fellows, let's make a plan of action before we continue our investigation. So, how did it go in court this morning? Well, we still don't know the truth about what really happened, but one thing's increasingly clear. My sleepiness. Lord Van Zieks definitely didn't do it. Oh, goody. Yes, that's right. We managed to uncover several new facts as well. Oh, really? And there was another development too. Kazuma. Yes, it's quite clear now that Kazuma-sama is not himself. The way he's acting, it's almost as if he's possessed. I know, I mean, at the end of the proceedings earlier, he was like a bloodhound the way he was chasing down Mr. Vidger's forgotten past. He's not normally so mercilessly persistent. What's going on in his head, I wonder? I really need to sit down with Kazuma and try to understand what he's going through. If Gregson was really murdered the day before his body was discovered, then Lord Van Zieks has to be innocent, you see. What? The day before? Well, that should be easy enough to work out just by examining the corpse, surely. Yes, you would expect so, but curiously, no time of death was included in the autopsy report. Ah, that is curious. There are still unanswered questions about Lord Van Zieks though, aren't there? Ah, do you mean... I mean, what was he doing? What was he doing there on Fresno Street that day in the first place? Well, according to the man's testimony, he said he was investigating Inspector Gregson, didn't he? And it turns out that little room was actually the inspector's secret office. Ooh, it sounds like it has all the makings of a wonderfully devilish plot. But then why was that notice board in there covered in all those particular papers? Papers about cases with the link to the Reaper. I'm starting to get a bad feeling about all this. Oh dear, that sounds more like something horribly devilish. We must stop by looking into Inspector Gregson's movements as of late. I never imagined I might have to be investigating an inspector's movements. Well, according to the entry in his diary, he was carrying out an incognito investigation of the Red-Headed League the day before his death. Oh, you mean he was doing the same as Hurley? Well, Mr. Sholmes was trying to apply, whereas the inspector was supposed to be investigating. I do wish it had been the other way around. Anyway, as it turns out, the inspector who went to investigate the Red-Headed League that day wasn't actually Gregson at all. It was Mr. Vigil, in possession of Gregson's identification. You know what that sounds like to me? Establishing an alibi. Oh my! Yes, you're absolutely right, Iris. But why would Gregson need an alibi? It would appear that the inspector had something to do that he wished to keep secret.
I don't believe it. I always thought he was a harmless lover of fish and chips. But perhaps they were seasoned with something a little more potent than salt and vinegar.
Okay, I like this line.
I think perhaps we should try to move away from food analogies. Well, anyway, if Lord Van Zieks felt the need to investigate Gregson... yes, I agree. We must try to find out what he knows.
Whoops. Seasoned with hot sauce? Who would put hot sauce in fish and chips?
Vigil, you say? Isn't that the name of the lady who came to visit her yesterday? That's right. To ask Mr. Sholmes if he would help her to find her missing husband.
Gregson, apparently. We're certainly playing with fire, that's for sure.
Only Mr. Sholmes completely passed the buck to us.
There's some people who put hot sauce on anything they can. Okay, normally I would call them out, but then again, I watched Strictly Dumpling, and he puts hot oil on practically anything. So, I don't think I have a right to call out people who put hot sauce on anything. Oh, that reminds me, I really do want to order Mikey's hot oil, because he keeps like advertising it, and like legitimately it looks kind of good, at least from what I've heard. Like, it looks and tastes good from what I heard. I'm like, man, I'm kind of curious, because I do like hot oil myself. Like, goes great with like whether you put out like whether you mix it with some rice or soup, especially, or other kinds of like noodle dishes. Hot oil really adds a lot of like depth of flavor to various dishes. Although I think for a joke, I think I remember he put hot oil on some ice cream, and he was like, "Yeah, no." I think it was just for shits and giggles, like, "Yeah, no, don't do that." Like, you know, the ice cream still tasted good, the hot oil still tasted good. Together, well, you might as well just be tasting them separately.
Actually, didn't you say that Mr. Vigil had been taken to the hospital? Do you know which one? Saint Sinners. Ah, it's Saint Sinners. I'm starting to wonder if all the other hospitals in London have closed down. Well, that's amazing, Runo. You found a lady's husband already. Well, I suppose I have, by accident. And 10 years ago, while Mr. Vigil was the chief warder at the prison, he was responsible for overseeing the professor's incarceration. No! So when the convict escaped, he was held responsible and immediately dismissed. Sometimes I really don't want to grow up. There's more. For 10 years after that, while he was ostensibly working as a peddler, he also had another secret job. He was paid by Gregson to be a stand-in, to impersonate the inspector. To impersonate Gregsy? But why? I have absolutely no idea. Ginny was right. I'm starting to think all adults are up to no good now. Including you, Runa. What did I do? What about Susato? I haven't paid anyone to impersonate me. That means he has ties to the professor and to Inspector Gregson, though. So I do think we ought to pay a visit to Mr. Vigil, don't you? Back to Saint Sinners, then. Well, I think it's clear what we need to do, isn't it? Let us investigate, my dear fellows. Oh, Iris, you're even more enthusiastic than usual today. If anyone has anything to hide, My special Wilson shooting iron will soon set them straight. That water pistol. It's the full of piping hot extra special blend. It's the full of a piping hot extra special blend of mine, and I'm quite sure it'll be very effective. I'd better be careful not to hide anything. Well, it feels a little strange that Mr. Sholmes is nowhere to be seen, but still. Let's go and see what we can find out. Yes.
Okay, this music though. It's so happy. Wait, hold on. Okay. Ew.
These must be the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Tendency to jump from windows. Learn to place cushion at base of wall outside.
Excuse me?
Wouldn't you wanna, lock the freaking windows? How would you put a cushion outside? Oh my god. I was like, well, we can't stop, or is it we can't stop them? Might as well just cushion the fall. Aren't we a story up from the ground here? Oh dear. Poor Mr. Vigil. I can't help feeling that there's a better solution to the problem than a cushion, though.
Possible the windows don't lock? Now I can seal it up with bricks.
Finding something you lost isn't always a happy experience, it turns out. Pursuing the truth can be a very dark business sometimes, can't it? Yes, I'm afraid it can.
But perhaps we should leave Mr. Vigil in peace for a little. Oh, I didn't read that part. Having the ability to open windows is important for hospitals at this point in time. Nah, just brick it up for the one patient and take it down later. See, strong out here? Hey, and Cosmo too. Excuse me. No arguments, Prosecutor Asugi. You will continue with the trial exactly as I instructed. Is that clear?
Perfectly. It's Kazuma-sama. Defying Lord Strongheart by the sound of it. He never did know when to back down.
On your way now, Asugi.
My lord. Kazuma.
Damn, left without a word. Yes. What are you doing here?
Well, I was just hoping to ask you a few questions, if you wouldn't mind.
I wanted Van Zeek's trial concluded today. But Prosecutor Asugi's unwelcome inquiries are going to make it take longer than necessary.
Unwelcome inquiries.
As a result, I'm losing even more precious time. Currently 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 41 seconds. 42, 43.
Then we must resolve everything before 3 hours have passed, Mr. Naruhodo. In a miraculous not even 5 minutes. Anyway, I can't let the man's obvious bad mood put me off. I need information. Does Prosecutor Asuki believe that Lord Van Zieks is the Reaper?
I wouldn't know. It was 10 years ago, in that faithful closed trial, that Lord Van Zieks made a name for himself among the judiciary. But the next trial he fought, he lost. It meant the ringleader of a criminal organization was acquitted, thanks to all the jurors being under duress.
But that's awful.
The man's freedom was short-lived. He lasted just 3 days.
Yes, let me see. He died in a rock slide at the place of his work, I believe.
Correct. That was the inauguration of the Reaper of the Bailey.
And people believe Lord Van Zieks was responsible.
He was brought to trial himself, but it was shown to have been an accident.
So he must have had a solid alibi then.
Nevertheless, the mysterious deaths continued. In total, 16 persons perished in unusual circumstances, ostensibly at the hand of the Reaper. That's a long run of coincidences.
Well, the Reaper's true identity may well be revealed by this trial.
And the impact that revelation would have on the British public cannot be understated.
Isn't that why it's a closed trial?
Precisely. This country hasn't seen a closed trial for 10 years.
So the last one was the professor's. The trial of Genshin Asugi.
Correct.
Actually, we learned that originally you were going to prosecute that trial yourself, Lord Strongheart.
Van Zieks entreated me to relinquish the prosecution to him, that he might avenge his brother's death. And here we are, 10 years later. With a son of the man Van Zieks had condemned, now looking to avenge his father's death in the same way.
They do say that what goes around comes around.
However, it would seem that the new young prosecutor is harboring some ulterior motive as well.
Cosmo is.
I'd like my organization to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe. As with the giant clock in here, I won't tolerate a single cog being out of step with the others.
Ah, so that's what all these gears are about in here.
If the young man refuses to mesh with the other parts of my great machine, I will be forced to take steps.
What do you mean?
Not something with which you need to concern yourself with. In any case, all your questions will be answered tomorrow. Now, I shall have to ask you to excuse me. As of this moment, I've been delayed from attending my next meeting by precisely 3 hours.
Oh my, that is a long time.
And I hold you entirely responsible.
Even though we miraculously managed to fit everything into not even 5 minutes? I wonder if you might agree to us, talking with Prosecutor Asuki.
Discussions between the defense and prosecution outside of the courtroom are generally frowned upon. However, I will make an exception in this case. Now go, you can find him in his office.
Oh, thank you! Let's go to see him at once, Mr. Naruhodo.
Hey!
Kazuma's my best friend in the world, but I'm really not at all sure I know how to talk to him at the moment.
Hey, what a bro.
So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asagi now, is it? Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. You know he's always forced to kneel on the floor Japanese style in that dark corner. It's his habit to Seiza style whenever he's working.
Dude, that's like murder on the knees.
Well, it looks like our journey here was wasted. The prosecutor appears to be out. Perhaps we should discuss things with another prosecutor we know first.
You know, it's kind of funny that Iris is here with us too.
Lord Van Zeeks is reading. Look. He doesn't seem like he wants visitors, does he? But he must have noticed that we're here, surely.
I just love how they're speaking and observing him as if Van Zeeks can't even hear though.
It's like, look at him. He looks like he doesn't even want visitors.
It's like, we're just disturbing his peace time. What do you Nipponese want? What is a jail but a zoo of humans?
That's no way to greet the lawyer who's trying his hardest to prove your innocence, is it?
Perhaps not. Huh? I apologize. So, what can I do for you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Lord Van Zeeks, speaking earnestly. Ooh, the fog will lift over London for the first time in months tomorrow. This does feel very, very strange.
I must say, I was impressed.
Oh, well, thank you.
Not by you, by your fellow Nipponese, your prosecutor friend.
I see. Yes.
It's sardonic, don't you think? For a man such as me, so loathing of the Nipponese, to be entirely at the mercy of you two. I suppose it's retribution for having played the part of the Reaper all these years.
Played the part?
Okay, hold on. Before I read, let me go get my pillow real quick. I want to cushion my chair a bit. It's bothering me right now. Cause like I'm kind of like leaning in a little bit closer to the mic while looking at my monitor at an angle. So yeah, I want to get a pillow right now. One moment. Okay, this is much better. Actually, let me move my monitor a little bit. Actually, wait, let me mute my mic real quick. Okay.
You once told me that you gladly allowed people to believe you were the Reaper, because it helped reduce the amount of serious crime that took place in London.
If keeping quiet and playing the part benefits the cause, a cause I myself am committed to pursuing, then why would I choose to say anything?
Because the henchman of the criminal killed by the Reaper attacked you only the other day. And that was just the most recent of many attempts on your life, wasn't it? Someone is clearly profiting from your silence about all this. Someone is using you.
Believe me, ever since the Reaper first appeared, I've been doing my utmost to expose him, or rather, expose the organization.
It's a whole organization.
It's inconceivable that all those accidents were orchestrated by one man. No, the Reaper always appears to have very accurate information about the accused in each case, which can only mean that somebody at Scotland Yard is involved.
Gregson. Someone at... You can't mean...
It's taken me many years, but I've finally identified the central figure in this Reaper organization. Tobias Gregson.
No! No! Gregson, the Reaper!
So that would explain Mr. Vigil being the stand-in, like Iris said, always for an alibi.
So, the reason you were investigating Inspector Gregson is because you intended to expose him as the Reaper.
As I said, the Reaper of the Bailey is no single person. It's a highly secret organization with close ties to Scotland Yard. But there's no doubt that Gregson was a key member of that organization.
I don't believe it. Are you saying that Gregson, that he was behind all those awful criminals meeting there?
Gregson didn't do the dirty work himself.
Oh.
He was the tactician. His job was to covertly investigate the marks and plot their assassinations. In order to do that without arousing suspicion, he regularly needed a firm alibi. Now, who funded Gregson? He had to get the money to fund his alibi from somewhere. Wait, what were the names again? Wait, what were the names again on that piece of paper that listed everyone's names? Gregson and... I forget the rest of the names on that paper in Case 5 epilogue from the last game. Maybe... I forgot who the other names were. But maybe they're all part of that organization, so then... Oh my god, I wish I could remember that, dude. I forgot.
Which is where Mr. Vigil came in, posing as the inspector.
Vigil knows nothing of the Reaper, but the room he rents on Fresno Street was almost certainly the headquarters of the operation. Gregson would have met the assassin there for briefings.
So we don't actually know who carried out the killings then?
It was the killer! Now it all comes full circle. Actually, I do have a name.
You what? Well, if you can name the man, you can have the true identity of the Reaper already then.
It was, as always, Killer Man. Or if I can name the woman.
Oh.
She's a young woman by the name of...
I fucking hate this game.
Kill me.
Oh my god. Oh.
I don't want to read the name. I don't want to read it aloud. Just... Oh, Aburetsu. Oh. It's ansatsu in Japanese. Yeah, that's just... Ansatsu is supposed to be Japanese for assassin, so then... Oh, clever one, localization. Clever one. Oh my god.
Wait, what? Shin.
On that... Miss A. Shin. Asa Shin. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, Capcom. I hate everything about this. I hate everything about this. Oh my god.
Miss Asashin. I can't take that seriously. The true name of a terrifying killer I know only too well. She came to Japan posing as a visiting student and murdered Dr. John H. Wilson. Then just when it seemed that diplomatic protection would help her escape Japan and conviction, the mysterious woman was herself murdered in a small summer beach hut. And that woman was actually the Reaper of the Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo, perhaps this isn't the place to discuss. No, of course not. Can't mention it here. The fact that she killed Dr. John H. Wilson. Because Iris doesn't know. And it's very likely the man was her father. Asashin. I should let father know at once. Yes, I agree.
Kazuma, isn't it? Kazuma Asugi. You say he's a friend of yours.
My best friend. He's the whole reason I got to come to Britain. It was all on his merits. I have nothing but respect for him.
Yes, I understand that only the very best students are selected for such opportunities, and I had a fine demonstration of how sharp he is in the proceedings earlier today. He missed nothing. In fact, his flawless performance very much reminded me of his father.
Kenshin Asugi, the professor.
It's true that the aristocracy at the time was the root of numerous grave societal problems. They were abusing their power, playing with the common man as pawns in politics, in economics, in war. In many ways, Asugi was carving out a canker from society that we British couldn't deal with ourselves.
Ah, I see.
But that's precisely why it makes no sense. Clint Van Zieks was a noble and upstanding man. He wasn't corrupt. Why did that damn Nipponese have to go and take my brother's life? In spite of having once saved mine.
He saved your life. How did that happen?
This music. It was 10 years ago now, on a foggy night. What was to be the professor's final strike has sent a wave of panic throughout the capital.
So Clint Van Zieks had already been killed at this point then.
Genshin and I were walking down on some back streets at a late hour. Of course, at that point, I had no idea the true nature of the man at my side. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep! You're coming with us! We were surrounded. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Clint was not only from noble heritage, he was a brilliant prosecutor as well. The scum of London hated the sight of him, and they had no sympathy for his younger brother either. I've been targeted several times before already. Yeah, it's Van Zieks, alright? We got him! I could hear them murmuring amongst themselves. I knew they were after me, but just when I thought my time had come.
If I let them kill you, Clint would never forgive me.
It was Asugi's voice, just a whisper in my ear. Bang! After that, I don't remember exactly what happened. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me. Two days later, they arrested him. On suspicion of being London's most notorious mass murderer ever. The Professor. Okay, hold on.
How awful for you.
All at once, I lost the brother I revered and the foreign friend I held in such high regard.
I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zieks.
That's the end of my miserable tale. I never thought I'd recount it to anyone.
Well, thank you for confiding in me.
Oh god.
The Professor, the Reaper, and Inspector Gregson. I wonder just how intimately related they all are.
Hold on, I got a PM. I don't know, man.
I still can't quite believe that Gregson was essentially the Reaper, giving assassination orders to Giselle Brett. Naruhodo, let's go in and inform my father. I'm sure our government will want to hear about this new information. Oh, that means I get to meet your daddy, Susie. Hooray!
Oh.
Dr. Wilson.
Uh-oh.
Yes, alright. Let's head back to the Great Waterloo Hotel then.
Before we go to the hotel, I need to splash water on my face because I am yawning way too goddamn much. So I will be right back in just a minute. And yeah, one moment. Alright, I am back. Oh, okay, yeah. Lots of cold water really helped out there. I might have stayed up a little bit too late last night. Funnily enough, I was just making more spreadsheet stuff for Granblue. Wait, oh no, we need to go back to the hotel. But yeah, maybe later I'll show what I worked on so far with the Granblue spreadsheet. I mean, it's nothing like extremely fancy. Grand spreadsheets. Like, I just kind of wanted a convenient way to see the total sum of materials that I need to farm up in general, and also have like a breakdown and like have something to memorize, like at what stage I am in the process. So like, what was it? I have my whole thing with like the evoker recruitment materials and stuff, and then I made a new sheet for the domain and weapons, and it took me quite a while to kind of like piece it together. The real breakdown is how many light scrolls you need. No, that's for Eternals, but the main actually, you know what? Since we're on this topic right now, hold on. I want to show this off for the hell of it. I want to show this off for the hell of it because, like, I know it's simple, but man, I feel a little proud for doing this myself. that like in a way, it's like a little oddly satisfying. That and applicable real world skills and all, totally justifies me staying up to 4 in the morning to work on this. I swear. But what was it? Here it is. Let me just bring up the good old display capture. Okay, hold on. Ah, here we go. Yeah, so this is what I worked on the other night. So normally we have like the various stages and stuff for like all the materials I need. I still need the last bits to recruit Maria, Lobelia, and Geisenberger or whatever. And yeah, I'm just missing the water astros. And then I ended up making a page for the domain and weapon uncaps, and holy shit. I take a look at all this and I'm just like, fuck me. I I do not think that I'll be able to. I don't think I'll be able to get the domain for the old man ready before Guild Wars, because what was it? The domain skill has dispel cancel buff. Like every time he, or every Ogi or chain or something like that, chain burst or something. And I'm like, damn, I want that. And then I look at the materials, I'm like, fuck, fuck me. Domains are just too much. Oh yeah, like from what I've read up, at least so far, the ones that look like they'd be worth investing time into, Frau and the old man, pretty much. The rest is just kind of if you really like them a lot. But yeah, that's a topic for later. Oh boy, I got a lot of work to do there. So yeah, I think I need to focus the rest of my Arcarum tickets on getting Idians for, what was it, Idians and Hazes. Like, funnily enough, the thing that's holding me back are the freaking Hazes, because I didn't realize in the Arcarum shop, you can buy the other materials, you know, your Astras, your Saphira Stones, and all that. You can buy them unlimited. But Hazes, you can only buy 10 a month. I'm like, if I read the fine print and saw and remembered that, I would have kept buying them out every goddamn month, so that I would have had enough to like finish out that section of the grind. And I'm like, fuck me. As a related aside, you did do Arthur's Fate episodes and can explain how that plays out. Nah, I think I'm good. I don't really care about Arthur that much. Although what did piss me off was that there's, after the event, for the Dragon Knights event, like at the end of the event, I just assumed that Rolly probably got captured or something like that, or at least that's what I think or thought. No, just on the post-event voice lines, when you go to the event page menu, where you have random characters from the event pop up, say their lines, right, at various stages of the event. There's voice lines from, what's his face? Who is that one dude with Rolly again? Or with Merlin again? I forget. I also thought that was a bad move. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I actually picked up Rolly, and it's like, you explain that in a post-event voice line instead of dedicating like a couple lines in cutscene to explain that, because people who finished the event probably wouldn't get the RNG to see that voice line to get extra like important information, and I'm just like, what the fuck? It's like, Cygames, what are you doing? Like, I don't really care much about the Dragon Knight storyline on Granblue that much anymore. And this makes me hate it even more because they hide critical information in a post-event thing that people wouldn't really be able to see. Oh, they also mentioned they grabbed the sword there, which then leads into the Fate episodes. But anyways, tangent aside. Oh, whoops, I didn't refocus my...
I thought it yesterday and think it again today. This place is so princely. It's a wild guess, but I have a feeling you'll think the same tomorrow too. My tea has a finer fragrance than whatever they're serving than whatever they're serving in the tea room here, though, wouldn't you say? Ah, look who we have here. This is an unexpected pleasure. Father! Ooh, is this your daddy, Susie? How lovely! A charming young lady. And you are... Ah, really? So you're the author of... The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, are you? That's me, Iris Wilson, at your service, sir. Susie's been such a wonderful friend to me over the last year, you know. Well, Miss Wilson, I must say I read your work regularly with much interest. Iris actually lives with Mr. Sholmes, you know, Father. Is that so? Well, perhaps that goes some way to explaining that bright look in your eyes. Oh my god, Iris. You wouldn't be smiling so airily if you knew just how bright she is. Believe me. Now then, young Naruhodo, it was a pleasure seeing you in action earlier. As an invitee of the symposium, I was allowed to observe from the gallery, after I twisted some arms. And I must say, it was a truly exemplary performance. Oh, well, thank you very much. Although I'm fairly sure you omitted by Kazuma on the end there. No, please don't misunderstand. It was you who impressed me. The Mikotovas are mind readers. Really? You didn't miss a step against Asugi, and we all know how capable he is. Really, to have matured into such a fine defense lawyer in less than a year is quite extraordinary. Man got into a closed trial in another country. Well, I mean, like, he is a special foreign guest to begin with. So, yeah. It's very kind of you to say so. And really nice to hear. What I saw in court today confirmed what I've been hoping for. The favor I mentioned yesterday in Naruhodo, I trust you haven't forgotten. Oh, no, you did mention something, didn't you? But first, we have something to report, Father. Oh, of course. Shall we take tea, while we discuss matters further? I wonder where Judge Jigoku has got to. Father, do you know about the so-called Reaper of the Bailey? I've heard rumors. Some members of the judiciary explained it all to me yesterday. Of course, when I was a visiting student here in London, the Reaper was yet to emerge. Right, he didn't appear until after that case, when the visiting students had already returned home. Lord Van Zeeks, who was in the dock today. That was Beric, the younger brother of Clint Van Zeeks, I believe. That's right. He's known throughout London as the Reaper, as you've heard, but the truth is, it wasn't him behind all those mysterious deaths. It was somebody else. Yeah, I'm gonna need to get more tea later. I finally cold brewed some sencha, and yeah, I missed this. It's been a while since I made some because like I just been a little bit lazy with getting more sencha tea. Really soothing. I see. So what you're saying is there's been a professional killer at work here? Exactly. Someone by the name of Assassin, in fact. I beg your pardon. Did you say Assassin? You mean that Giselle Brett woman who was responsible for killing my great friend? Oh no, a friend of yours was killed. Don't say the name. Professor Mikotoba, I think perhaps we shouldn't discuss this right now. Because the friend the professor is talking about is Dr. John H. Wilson. and that's not something we want Iris to find out about. Not like this, anyway.
You know, I can only imagine, like, Ryunosuke, like, in a panic, directing his eyes, like, looking at Professor Mikotoba to Iris's direction. To go, it's like Professor Mikotoba. It's like Dr. Wilson, like looking with his eyes and stuff.
I've just remembered something. Biscuits. This hotel has the most delicious looking biscuits.
Oh, that was rather out of the blue.
She's doing this deliberately. I think I'll go and see if I can purchase some. I wonder, would you like to come to Iris? Oh yes. You just tried to leave me behind.
Smooth, sort of.
So that young girl is called Iris Wilson, is she? Yes, that's right. And she's the author of all those adventure stories starring the great detective Sholmes. But the name of the credited author isn't Iris, is it? It's Dr. John H. Wilson. Yes, I know. That's the name of her father, you see. Her father! Dr. John H. Wilson. I was deeply indebted to the man for all the kindness he showed me during my time in London. That's why I was keen to reciprocate and invite him to Imperial Yume University 4 years ago.
So given how smart Iris is, she may have picked up something from the exchange. Maybe, maybe not. Like, if anything, Iris would have been reluctant to go while they're in the middle of a conversation, but she gleefully went along with it. No moments of doubt or anything. So what was it? Because she's not suspicious of Ryunosuke and Susato, since, you know, they're so close to each other. So she wouldn't have any reason to even think about doubting, much less know about about any ulterior stuff going on.
But he was murdered last year by Giselle Brett. Why? Why would the hand of the Reaper stretch all the way to Japan? Iris knows nothing about that case, but it seems very likely that the victim, Dr. Wilson, was her father. Well, I can't say that we ever spoke about his family, so I don't know if he had a daughter or not. But I think I can say with some certainty that he was never the great detective's partner. So it could have been another Wilson, you think? Well, John and Wilson are both common names after all. Still, it's probably best not to mention this to the young lady until we can be sure. That's what we thought, yes. We're back! With cinnamon biscuits. Ooh, can I have some? Ooh, they smell delicious, Iris. I think cinnamon will go very well with the tea they serve here, don't you, Susie? Yes, I'm sure you're right, Iris.
Man, I really want some too.
All I have is tea, but nothing to eat it with.
And I'm not gonna bust out a bag of chips, like actual chips, for to drink with tea. Hell no.
I haven't seen Judge Jigoku for a while, have you? Guilty! Ha 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 ha! But that guilty is still ringing in my ears. No, now that you mention it, I haven't seen him since this morning either.
Also... okay.
I suppose since the symposium opening was postponed, I'll have gone to explore at the Great Exhibition. That reminds me of something you mentioned yesterday. About Judge Jigoku having once been in the dock himself. Ah, yes. It was all tied up with that accursed trial. The closed trial of Cosmo's father. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so we took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand. I thought that Judge Jigoku, I thought that he actually like lied or got in actual legal trouble, not from breaking the witness stand. Oh my. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged. Oh, there we go. Oh dear, although it's worryingly easy to imagine him doing that. Well, it was alright in the end. He was acquitted and we returned home to Japan together. Thank goodness. Ah yes, talking of Seishiro. I have a copy of the photograph we all took together here yesterday, please. Oh, what a lovely picture. It suddenly seems to shout, "We've arrived in Britain." Wait, why is this in the court record? None of us had any idea what was coming when we took that, did we? No, that's so true. So, you mentioned a favor that you'd like to ask me. Way to kill the mood, Ryunosuke. Well, this fateful trial that you're fighting, one way or another, it will be over before long. And when it is, I'd like you to accompany me back to Japan. You want me to... What? Father? What's the meaning of this? Now, Susato, you should understand. You've seen how our courts work firsthand. Japan's judicial system is in its infancy, especially when it comes to defense. Oh, you mean the Supreme Court of Judicature is in desperate need of a good defense lawyer. As soon as possible. Really quite urgently, in fact. But I've not even been in London for a year yet. I've read all of Susato's reports. I'm well aware of your extraordinary talents. And having seen you in action with my own eyes earlier today, there's no question. You, Naruhodo, are precisely the man our country needs. So, you'll be leaving then, Bruno? But then, what am I supposed to do, Father? You came here to serve as Asagi's judicial assistant. Oh yes, she's supposed to be Kazuma's assistant. Our government is still in the process of deciding how to best deal with the situation though. You've always chosen your own path, Susato, and I trust your judgment. In this matter also. Father! Please, the pair of you, don't look so downcast. It's merely a suggestion, you understand. A hope, if I'm honest. But I won't force you. All I ask is that you consider it, and come to a decision by the time this trial concludes. Yes. Alright. You won't leave? You won't leave, will you, Bruno? thought had even crossed my mind. Up until now, I've just been trying to do what I believe to be Cosmo's will. But it turns out that he's still alive, so... where does that leave me? Well, if you'll excuse me now. I need to telegram government ministers and the Japanese police with this information about Asashin. Of course, Father. Thank you. I look forward to the next month's installment. I look forward to the next month's next month's installment, Miss Wilson. Oh, good. And please, do come to Baker Street sometime, won't you? Well, we'd love to entertain you. I would be delighted. The best of luck for tomorrow, Naruto. And give my suggestion your full consideration, won't you? Yes, I will. Going back home. I wonder how this will play with Case 5. You know, Kazuma-sama has always meant a great deal to my father. I'm sure he'd love the chance to meet with him and to talk to him about all this. Yes, no doubt. Asashin. Of course. It's so obvious. Charles, what the fuck are you doing here? How could I have neglected to consider the possibility before now? Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Early, where have you been? Why, I joined you all for tea, of course. What an extraordinary question. I didn't notice you at all. No matter. Anyway, to more pressing concerns, Mr. Naruto. Oh, yes. I must dispatch a telegram to your country at once. It is a matter of much urgency. To Japan, you mean? Tell me, to whom can I entrust the task? Quickly now, who? My father has just now left to send a telegram to the Imperial Police Bureau of Japan himself. I see. Well, he looked reliable enough for a bearded fellow. I don't think what father sports could be considered a beard, Mr. Sholmes. There's not a moment to lose. Kindly ask your trustworthy, unshaven father to see this sent. I will, but what is it? No questions at this time, if you please, Mrs. Sato. All we can do is pray that for once my deduction is awry. Doesn't that imply your deductions are normally correct, Mr. Sholmes? Which isn't exact. Now then, you may be surprised to learn that I'm a very busy man. I certainly have no time to hide behind cities and eavesdrop on other people's conversations. So that's what joining us for tea meant. I leave the sending of this in your hands then, my dear fellows. Whoosh. Ah, wait a minute. Well, Mr. Sholmes. He just sort of ran off, didn't he? At quite a pace. And left the unpaid bill for his tea behind, too. I must catch up with father at the telegraph office at once. And I'll run and call us a cab straight away. Whoosh. And there was me thinking everyone would be clamoring to pay Mrs. Sholmes' bill. This is the ward where Mr. Vigil was brought, apparently. To be frank, I'm a little worried about seeing him again. Ah, the lawyer. Hello again. Are you feeling better now, Mr. Vigil? Yes, thank you. Somewhat better. I'm so sorry to have caused you to... it was because of me. If I hadn't exposed your secret and forced you to remember things you obviously tried to forget. The prosecutor was here until a few moments ago too. You just missed him. Oh, Kazuma beat us to it. He said much the same as you. He was very apologetic. But the truth is, I brought all this upon myself. Please, don't think like that. Keeping it from Evie, my wife, after all these years, I've carried such a sense of guilt. But that's not the worst of it. Over time, I obviously came to deceive myself as well. You mean about your dismissal? Looking back now, I'm beginning to think that perhaps Inspector Gregson didn't stumble across me by accident at all. I mean, he compensated me so generously for acting as his stand-in. He was clearly concerned for my well-being and doing what he could to help. So perhaps Gregson knew exactly what had become of, Mr. Vigil all along, then...
Hold on. Oh my god. I think I need to sleep early for tonight, but let's see if I can get through investigation part 2.
I'm sure this is just desserts for 10 years of lies and deception, but... It wasn't me that helped the professor escape 10 years ago. It wasn't me. I swear it's true. Oh, Mr. Vigil. I'm sure you'd rather not dredge up even more of your past, even more from your past at this time, but if possible, could you tell us exactly what really happened? I want to. I need to get all this off my chest. I just want someone to tell me what I should have done.
Too soon. Lay off the evidence for a while. Fair enough, sir.
Inspector Gregson was obviously engaged in a special operation of some sort. He was investigating something that even Scotland Yard couldn't know about. Details of the Reaper marks, yes. It was when he had to carry out those investigations that I would take his identification and impersonate him. He'd pretend to be the inspector and carry out investigations on his behalf. Oh no, never! A common street peddler couldn't possibly carry out a proper police investigation. All he would do is go to the specific location and make a little hoo-ha. Just something to leave an impression, so everyone there would think a detective called Gregson was here. So, that's what you were doing on the day prior to the incident? Yes, he asked me to make an appearance at the park on Lime Street for the Red-Headed League event. So as usual, I flashed the inspector's identification around and was very vocal about my presence. Oh. But then you were taken prisoner by those red-headed fraudsters. Yes. So you would always make a point of showing Gregson's identification and generally being loud. That's what the inspector asked me to do, yes. Well, that's one way of becoming a legendary detective, huh? Or I suppose, not a good one though. And as you know, I suffered this bruising around my neck at their hands. But the following day, they kept their word and released me. Without returning the inspector's identification to you, however. We had arranged to meet in the Fresno Street room at 5 that day so I could report back to the inspector. But at the agreed time, that's when I heard the gunshots. It was midnight on 17 June 10 years ago. That was the time scheduled for the execution. Or rather, the execution itself must have been used to affect the plan of escape. I hardly dare to imagine what a chilling plan it was. Barclay was renowned for being the highest security prison in the country. Everything that went in or out of the place was searched multiple times. But there was one notable exception. Or rather, one notable loophole. Something that was never questioned. The coffins into which the bodies of the executed convicts were placed, correct? Yes. Once the coroner had confirmed the death of a condemned convict, the body was taken to its coffin for immediate burial in Lowgate Cemetery, just behind the prison. God, okay. Yeah, I'll have to call it an early session, but let's keep reading on until we get to the end of the investigation. And after that, no member of staff was permitted to touch the coffin containing the body again. When executions took place, only the executioner and the coroner were permitted inside the chamber. I waited in the adjacent room for word that the condemned convict was dead. On that occasion, once I had that confirmation, I went to the mortuary to find a lone coffin as usual. The procedure was that I would sign the paperwork for having checked the coffin, and then nail it shut. But for some reason on that day, the coffin was already nailed shut. No! I didn't think anything of it at the time. I assumed that my deputy must have checked the coffin and nailed it shut before I did. Okay, you know what? Maybe I put too many tea leaves with this cold brew. It's a little bit too bitter. So, you mean the coffin contained... Yes, I can only imagine that Asuki, having escaped his execution somehow, was alive in the cotton. The coffin was then taken out through the main gates and deposited in Lowgate Cemetery. Presumably there wouldn't have been enough air inside to breathe for long. So in the early hours following the burial, somebody dug up the coffin again to set Genshin free. But in the end, he was fatally shot in the graveyard anyway. What on earth really happened in Lowgate Cemetery that night, I wonder? I'm afraid I really don't know. All I can say with certainty are two things. Asuki couldn't possibly have escaped that way without help from somebody working in the prison. And that somebody was not me. Obviously you knew the man. The professor, I mean. Genshin Asugi. Yes, I remember him well, in fact. Would you mind telling us what you know? Well, having been condemned to death as he was, any contact I have with the man was short, presumably. After that trial, which was carried out behind closed doors, attended only by elite members of the judiciary. They called for his execution to be carried out at the earliest possible opportunity. The outcome of the trial was set from the beginning, wasn't it? It was a time of delicate diplomacy when Britain and Japan were in the process of signing important treaties. This meant that this potentially destabilizing case had to be dealt with swiftly and discreetly. The man had less than a week in total. As I was the chief warder, I oversaw his short stay in his cells until his final hour. I remember being struck deeply by his noble character and incredible resilience.
God. Okay, yeah. We need to get to the end of this.
What do you mean exactly?
Actually, you know what? Let me do a little stretch right now. Let me go on a little stretch break. Ugh. Irresistible resilience. Yeah, like, my eyes are getting a bit, like, droopy and all, so, like, some words are getting blurred together and my mind isn't making sense anymore. Yeah, I need a stretch. Yeah. When I end the stream later, I'm just gonna leave it hostless and then just go. Well, I need like wash up and stuff, but yeah, I need to go straight to bed. But I still need an answer from my friend about something that something that we planned. So I need to get back to me, and then go to sleep. Because we're just making plans to go have a lunch somewhere. Cause like, there's this really nice Donbury place that my friend went to, and I really want to try it out. The katsu curry, like some katsu curry don that I saw. Oh my god, that looks really good. I really want that. Or Japanese curry in general, I'm a huge fan of. It's just a bit of a hassle making it yourself.
He was a killer of many men, but he was always quiet and polite. He was a gentleman, and a man of intellect.
Oh shit. You had a nice night out with a friend a few weeks ago, it was a bachelor party?
In fact, I couldn't bring myself to believe what he'd done, so I asked him one day. There was 5 members of the aristocracy whose lives were taken. Were you really responsible? I'm guilty of the unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. The following day, the closed trial took place, and the verdict was no surprise. Guilty.
Mostly SFW, we're not really the crowd for that.
That night, when he was brought back to his cell, I saw something unusual. Something unusual? What? The last will and testament of Genshin Asugi. As I said, it was on the night following his trial. After he'd been found guilty, I was doing the rounds of the cells. When I looked into Asugi's, I noticed that he seemed to have a sheet of paper in his hand. Ah, his last will and testament then, presumably. As soon as he noticed me, he hurriedly shoved it behind his back. What? Why did you find that so unusual? Isn't it normal for a man to pen a will when he knows his death is nigh? Yes, that's true, but there were special conditions to Asugi's incarceration, you see. What sort of conditions? Well, even though he was held in a cell designed for condemned inmates, he was allowed to keep his personal effects with him, with one exception. Really, he was allowed his things. That is unusual, certainly. Of course, he'd been convicted of killing 5 members of the aristocracy, but at the same time, he was a guest in our country from the Empire of Japan. The powers that be were determined that his final days shouldn't be needlessly uncomfortable. And that was the exception you mentioned to the personal effects that he was allowed.
This is making his trial seem very suspect. I mean, everything in Ace Attorney is suspect in general, when you really think about it.
That's the point. He wasn't permitted to have writing materials. Specifically, no pens or paper. So, he was prevented from writing any written record of what had happened to him. Yes, that was the long and short of it. I have no idea we obtained that paper. Any writing materials would have been confiscated upon him or from him upon his incarceration. As I said, he hid the paper behind his pack, then he pleaded with me. What did you just hide behind your back? Please, please, turn a blind eye. This is my lifeline. But you know it's against the rules. You're the only person who's seen, if you just agree to keep quiet. Alright then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. How can a will be a weapon? So I decided to pretend I'd seen nothing, and I let him keep his will. But then later, it just seemed to vanish without trace. What? What do you mean it vanished? It would seem that isn't the end of the story of this mysterious will. I was the only person who saw Asugi's will, but somehow it disappeared. It was after Asugi's execution, which was actually an elaborate jailbreak. The warders gathered up Asugi's possessions that were in his cell. They were all to be sent back to his family home in Japan, you see. To poor Kazuma-sama. And you're saying that it wasn't anywhere to be found among his personal effects. The will, I mean. That's right. Though I didn't search through them myself. But Governor Kaiden was livid. He was screaming, It cannot have disappeared completely. Can I? Oh yeah, this was a Kana. Right. Or, I think Kana. That doesn't quite make sense though, does it? In what way? Well, we'd understood that only Mr. Vigil was aware of the will's existence. In which case, how did the prison governor know to look for it? Oh yes, you're right. I really don't know how he knew. But it certainly seemed as though he knew the will's existence from the outset. Only he didn't refer to it as a will. What he said was... the Asugi Papers. The Asugi Papers? I really can't tell you anything of the subsequent events. Because, well, of what happened. No dismissal. And the way you blocked it all from your memory. I'd forgotten all until this day. I don't suppose it's relevant to the case, though. Well, anyway, thank you very much for sharing it with us, Mr. Vigil. We're very grateful. Okay, you know what? I need to read standing up. Sitting down is making me sleepy. Or, sleepier. Sadly, the mic might sound a little bit different because I'm standing up and a little bit further away. So, I do apologize if the difference is a little jarring, but I need to stand up. Yeah, I need to stand up, like, more often in general. But, yeah. Oh, man. If I can... Well, I can't really say if I can do away with my current, like, desk/bookshelf setup. Because, like, it's like, it's supposed to be, like, this work desk with, like, some, shelves to put, like, other things on it, but, like... I need to find a place to put all this if I were to even think about getting a desk or one of those fancy standing desks or whatever. Also, like, aren't standing desks, like, really expensive, though, if I remember correctly? I think I remember, someone showed me the price tag for one, and I'm like, holy shit, dude. Wait, let me mute the mic for one moment. Okay. I'm afraid there's really little more I can tell you. My wife Evie will be here shortly, so I do hope I don't appear rude, but... Oh, no, not at all. Thank you again. But what will become of you now? Well, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense, of course. I imagine that once I'm fully recovered, I shall be arrested. Okay, hold on. I need to turn on the fan. It's getting hot. I'm so sorry. Don't be, please. This is all my own doing.
I need to tilt my monitor a bit. There we go.
I always knew that this day would come. Well, I wish you well. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Vigil. Ah! Before you go, there's just one thing. Yes. Well, what is it? The Asogi papers. I'd be very grateful if you'd make no mention of the things I told you about them. Presumably for some good reason. It's my understanding that their very existence is a closely guarded secret. If it became known that I'd remembered, well, it could be rather troublesome, I think. I understand. Some sort of will that Genshin Asugi penned just before his death, which the man himself claimed was his last weapon. I wonder, perhaps it had something to do with his plan to escape. If there's anyone who might know more about a document than Cosmo's father left behind, it would be Mr. Vigil's governor. Then we know precisely where we must go, back to Barclay Prison.
Okay, hold on. Actually, if I'm standing up like this, I need to move my microphone. One moment again. Okay. Oh, I'm kind of worried about my... Oh, shit. Hold on. I heard a sound from my pop filter. As I was moving it. Well, hopefully it doesn't break. Although pop filters aren't really expensive anyway, so it's kind of whatever, but... I've had this pop filter for quite a long time. Ooch, back again, are you?
Yes. Hello.
Not all about your investigations. Where'd the report just now? You found him, eh? Vigil.
Yes, luckily.
Well, anywho. Lottie does not work here no more. Now, so your case is no to do with Barclay. Note to do with Barclay? Oh. I wouldn't like you to get a wrong idea about that.
Of course, yes. Mr. Vigil stopped working here 10 years ago now, so... Yes, we've seen his dismissal notice, haven't we? He was given the job.
Hi, Kima. Hey, you can very well. So, how about a wee handcuff biscuit?
Oh, they really are like little handcuffs, and as hard as irons too.
So, what brought you duty the day?
Well, there's something we'd like to ask you about, actually.
Is that so? Or is that so? Whoops, sorry about that.
We believe there might have been a document that disappeared from Genshin Asugi's cell. I think it's been called the Asugi Papers or something.
Oh boy. Yeah, hold on. Gratefully make no mentions of the things I told you, or no mentions of the things I told you about the. Oh boy. Did I know say, Grayson's death is, not to do with things that might have happened at Barclay? We're explicitly asked to not mention these. But we need answers. Leave the past in the past, laddie. Let's not footer about with irrelevant details. His expression changed completely. We're clearly onto something here. That murderer's botched execution, and the whole miserable escape. They were Barclay's darkest hour, aye. A shocking embarrassment.
Because the convict had a collaborator on a prison staff, you mean?
Aye, for shame. The coroner who confirmed the death of the man after his execution, Courtney Sith. Oh. And my chief warder at the time, Vigil, who was in charge of the whole affair.
But Mr. Vigil says he didn't know anything about it.
The rascal would I say otherwise, eh? More handcuffs?
Oh, how can I say no? You can never have too much iron in your diet. When Mr. Vigil, was handed his dismissal notice as a result of what had happened, he was so despairing, he jumped out of your office window, didn't he?
Too much iron is very bad. Nonsense. God damn, that biscuit's hard. I didn't like to say, but that's just Vigil trying to get out of it. You do think he wouldn't have jumped from the shock of his crimes being exposed there? I do. You wouldn't say otherwise though, would you? Oh, of course I can shun all the responsibility myself. I shouldn't have let him deceive me. Actually, there's barely anybody that kens what went on at the time now. Will Grayson have been murdered, and Dr. Sith forbidden from having any visitors. No visitors? Someone obviously doesn't want her giving anything away.
Well, we're not going home empty-handed.
And I wouldn't dream of sending you packing with, And I wouldn't dream of sending you packing with no Kimmer? Here, take a handcuff or two.
Oh, well, it would be rude to say no. Wouldn't want to become, an anemic, or an anemic?
Anemic? Yeah. English is hard. Anemic? Okay, thank you. English is hard. Oh, I suppose if there's anybody who might still kinnaboot what happened back then, it'd be that last from the forensic division, Maria Gory. Maria Gory? Aye, sis daughter. She didn't have no more, just the one. Mother, we Byrnes followed her mom's footsteps. You didn't ever see her without a scalpel in her hand. Ah. Mama, what is this? Where'd she spring from? Did she just call the doctor Mama? Dr. Sis' daughter, Maria Goer. We could do with talking to her. So, she's Dr. Sis' daughter, but her surname is Goer. Ah, there's some family history, I'm sure, but I didn't get the ins and outs of it. She grew up watching her man working with the bodies of folk who died in strange circumstances, and decided to do the same with her own life. I can understand it myself. Perhaps she was driven by a deep respect for her mother. So like, you can see the pun in her last name, but can't see the one in their first name. Not too sure if it's a pun, so I don't know. Or at least it's not obvious to me. If there is one. Perhaps. Anywho, she was in charge of Gregson's autopsy, I believe. Right. And the coroner responsible for this incomplete report. Someone told me once that the wee lassie always loved her mom's stories about cutting up bodies. There's even a rumor that she used to listen to the funeral march as a lullaby. What the fuck? Well then, perhaps her mother might have told her about the autopsy from the case 10 years ago. I'd say there's a fighting chance at least. After all, that was a life-changing case for all of us. We really need to speak to Miss Goy herself about this, I think. Well, thank you very much. I'm no happy about any part of this. It took years for Londoners to finally forget the whole professor business. Can you not give up on this, laddie? Stop asking pointless questions. I'm sorry. I don't like dredging up these painful memories for everyone. Can you not just stay away, no? Leave me alone and didn't come back here, eh? But the Asugi papers. How'd you come to kinnaboot that, laddie? There's no many folk even here in the prison who've heard of those papers. Ah, well, I can't tell Mr. Vigil told me. I'm afraid our sources must remain confidential, sir. We've been led to believe the papers are actually a last will and testament. Is that right? The professor's, or rather, Genshin Asugi's. Aye, that's right. You're well informed, Jimmy. Oh, is that the end of the silent treatment? Well then, after the convoy's execution, it mysteriously vanished from Mrs. Hill, didn't it? Heavens no! You're at half cocked there. I think you didn't quite get your facts straight. It was there in the cell, exactly where it should have been. Oh, not what we heard elsewhere. Let me just have a wee hulk around here. I'm sure I can find it. Ah, here you are. See?
The last will and testament of Genshin Asugi, written with a calligraphy brush.
Oh, well, of course I can't read a word of those Japanese squiggles. But I might, it says he leaves all his worldly possessions to his son back in his homeland.
Yes, that's correct. That's the gist of it. So these are the Asugi papers.
Aye, of course they are. Papers written by Asugi. No doubt about it. There's no mystery here, laddie. That's your lot. After all the Stramash. Stramash? Oh, that's Slicer? After all the Stramash, of the Slicer, of an execution. Yeah, I don't know these words. We sent the mass possessions back to his clan in Japan, and that was the end of it.
I think we ought to make a record of this, Mr. Naruhodo, just in case.
One thing for you on your way, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes. Those papers are no to do with Gregson's death. I'd prefer it if you didn't make no mention of them outside of his office, or rather, I wouldn't just prefer it. Consider it an order from the highest levels of our government.
I understand.
I never expected to find a parrot in prison.
It must be the governor's pet. Given where we are, it's hard not to see the poor creature as a prisoner.
The mute didn't kill me. Ah! Has the bird learned to mimic the plaintive cries of the inmates in the cells? Ouch, no, he was one of the 3 siblings, you see. And he still calls out the names of his 2 brothers like that all the time. Brothers? Right. You didn't kill me. I hear you, laddie. You want your dinner, eh? Dinner do it? Oh, actually, hold on. I, Genshin Asugi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asugi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Huh, simple and straightforward. I don't think I see any fancy things about it. Alright. I'm guessing you don't want to see... Lucy seems to be on the mend. You know, his disguise as Mr. Gossip was really quite masterful, wasn't it? I can't remember anything about it except the floppy lip. I imagine not even his wife would have recognized him. Perhaps, but did he really have to take it quite so far? Yeah. Those parrots. Ah.
Kazuma.
I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke.
I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry. and you have all the markings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you fulfill your dream of advocating in British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I'm truly happy for you. And I am truly happy, truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Bikutoba.
Okay, hold on. Okay, time to sit back down. Ugh. Wait, hold on. I do that annoying thing where I need to get comfortable in my chair again.
I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but I suppose it's another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London, but how Sada-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku, and about what happened with your father.
Actually, let me move my microphone again now that I'm sitting down. Okay.
Then you have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. It's getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Buria. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain. When a bizarre serious When a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow.
Posy? Ozzy? Posy?
It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain. Your task awaits you there.
+1 translator slip up.
It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship, and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, It must have been, presumably before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. So I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I had escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes off my back. No money, of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. That's right. And on the back of that, I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Of course, I had no idea why I'd move heaven and earth to get here to that point. At that point. So how did you end up becoming Lord Van Zieg's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck, really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend a meeting. That's when a second feather in my cap came to my play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious by an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back at the trial involving Drebber. Yes, I did. Ever since I met you at Yume, you talked about your dream. Mark my words, Ryunosuke. I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday.
The mask sure did make him more intimidating. Oh, definitely. I'd be scared shitless.
Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago.
Oh.
When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san. Oh my! Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education at Yume. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. Then one day, a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it assuming it was an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Asagi name. Oh no! As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Kazuma, what do you—
Oh no. Ah. So we can't talk about the papers. Oh, whoops.
Presumably the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. I'm so sorry that you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be the problem. But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I had ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness. That couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration of my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jigoku. To the other visiting students. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. That's when I made up my mind that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Asuge. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. What we learned today in court, turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Old Van Zeeks isn't the Reaper, you know. I almost didn't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper activity all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Berg Van Zeeks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No, he was merely seeing that justice was done as the law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions, of course. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken by the Reaper.
Nah, do we show this? Nah. Okay, what else can we show?
This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact I know time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy reports. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everyone by surprise. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence at the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too, so I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got her name. It's Dr. Gori. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate by Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Asuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory at later today. Ryunosuke, I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asagi clan. Well, it's a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karuma is said to have been forged by the master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I came from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, since you're a trip off the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karuma, is a symbol of the Asagi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for a surname. Really, Karuma. It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had this sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. What's going on, Bretsu? It's just the fact that one of the apprentices took Kuruma as their last name. Yeah, this guy's silly. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Ryunosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. Well, you can't just pull the no you card on me! No, you... I completely understand your resentment the Lord Land seeks given what happened. Oh wait, one of the apprentices took Karuma as their last name as in Von Karma. Karma, Karuma... No fucking way. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated? Or unrelated? Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whichever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you do what you have to as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect no less. Until tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey. So wait, Kuruma is their family name in the original JP version. Oh. Oh. This place really is creepy, isn't it? Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air. Well, being a dead room, the coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. That's one way to put it. Iris, do you think we could change the subject? What was that? Dr. Gory. What? That noise before. I was sharpening my tools. You're not sharpening your tools, you're damaging the blades! What are you fucking doing? What are you doing to those tools? You know, you could always get a fucking whetstone or one of those other sharpeners, come on! Didn't they teach you how to properly sharpen a blade? I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly keen edge on them. Right. When following the collagen fibers in the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration? Oh, yes please, I'd love to see. Then, I think you'll do nicely. Huh? No. I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. Ryunosuke. You're inviting death right now. Was that a tut? Well, we came to ask questions, so... Whetstones cost money we don't have after pulled funding from Case 3. Well, it's more like after they kept diverting money suspiciously, like buying 500 scalpels a month. We've actually met before. I'm a lawyer, if you remember. You're not dead yet. What? So Mama said I wasn't to cut you open. She's so strict about things like that. Bruh. Well, good. Dr. Sith has, some scruples at least. Oh dear. It looks like she's not interested in talking to us. For the time being, anyway. For the time being? You mean until we die? Oh, that's a way off. Sorry, but I wasn't planning on dying anytime soon. Surely there's some less drastic way of making her listen. Dr. Gory, we actually came to ask you about this. He was very good. Good, sorry. His skin didn't snag on my blade once, and very little mess. His joints dislocated easily, and his muscle tissue was a pleasure to work with. We can skip those details! But there's one thing about the report that's caught my attention. He didn't seem to have recorded a time of death. Uh-oh. Oh. That's not my fault. Oh, that's how she looks like? Oh, that might be Jump. Then please, tell us what happened. So, why doesn't his autopsy report include the victim's time of death then? It's really the most crucial detail. I was told not to write it. What? By whom? Miles Strongheart, the Lord Chief Justice. He came here. Lord Strongheart came... He said that from the witness statements about the gunshot and the other evidence, it was obvious. The man clearly died at 5 p.m. on November 1st, when the gunshot was heard. But that's not the time of death you wrote on the report. You didn't write anything, was there? Or was there some reason you didn't include it? Dr. Gore, if you're hiding something under Lord Strongheart's instructions, then sooner or later, you're going to go the same way as your mother. Give it here then. Huh? What's she scribbling so furiously? There. You've written... What? What's she written? Tell us. Indeterminate. What? Indeterminate? What do you mean by that? How is the time of death indeterminate? When the specimen was brought in, it was still fresh. So the time of death could have easily coincided with when the gunshot was heard. But there was one small discrepancy. What discrepancy? There was some fried fish in the pocket of the specimen's overcoat. It was stale. Oh. And that fish had started to rot. What? If the victim liked fried fish, he presumably liked to eat it before it went off. Well, yes. What are you really trying to say? It's possible that someone tried to manipulate the apparent time of death. Manipulate the... Is that even possible to do? Theoretically, if you were to chill the body in ice, you could delay the onset of putrefaction. Or putrefaction, I mean. Fish and Chips showed up to help Gregson one last time. And if the overcoat wasn't on the body at the time... then only the fish would have started to rot. With today's science, it's not possible to determine if the body was chilled or not. But today's science is advanced enough to let you freeze a corpse, it seems. But surely, to chill a corpse like that would require an enormous electrical refrigerator. I don't imagine many households in London are equipped with such a device. No, definitely not. But maybe in a factory or some other special place. I don't recall seeing any factories or such like on Fresno Street, though. I wonder if the inspector's body had been chilled somehow. When might the actual time of death been? I couldn't say for sure. But at the most, it might have been a day earlier. No! In other words, it would corroborate your previous deduction, Mr. Naruto. That Inspector Grayson was killed a day before his body was discovered at a different location. Did you inform Lord Strongheart of this possibility? He simply said that there were no electrical refrigerators of that size in the vicinity. Oh yes, one other thing. It's saying the governor of Barley Prison told us. He said that your mother, Dr. Sith, was responsible for confirming the death of the professor after his execution. The professor. Apparently, you always enjoy listening to your mother's stories about her work, so... We were wondering if you might know something about what happened 10 years ago now. That's not all Mama did. Sorry? My mama carried out the autopsy of Clint Van Zieks as well. What? Really? The brother of Lord Van Zieks, the professor's final victim. The idea of carrying out an autopsy on the member of the aristocracy was completely unthinkable back then, but the detective in charge of the investigation insisted it was miraculously authorized. That detective being Inspector Gregson, of course. Quite an accomplishment for one man. That autopsy provided the vital clue needed to arrest the killer. And Mama was there for that historical moment. What does all this mean? You know, that amazing autopsy happened right here in this very room. The Professor and Clint Van Zieks. They both spent their final moments before their, brutal dissection on that burial. God, brutal. God, my fucking eyes, dude. Ugh. Brutal dissection, I mean, sure. Doing autopsies weren't really that far ahead yet, so I mean, it must have been. But I can't wait to sleep. Oh yeah, I can't wait to sleep. Like, God, like, even though like I feel a little more awake after standing up for a while, like my brain just like slowly shuts off for a very brief time, for very brief moments. That like I just like switch up the letters of like words I read, and I'm like, man, I must have it real bad right now. So this lab, Mama's lab, was instrumental in some of the country's most important events. She really is proud of her mother. I wonder if you tell us more about exactly what happened back then, Dr. Gory. The professor's execution was Mama's first big case. She had to be in attendance at Barclay Prison's execution chamber and sign the certificate to confirm the victim's death. Mama was the best coroner in the world, you know. I was so proud of her. But the execution didn't actually take place. No, and worse still, Mama actually helped with the jailbreak. And I didn't want to know. Or I didn't want to know. Oh dear, you found out recently, you mean? I believed in her, in Mama, but now I wonder if I'm starting down the same path as her. You mean because you omitted the time of death on this autopsy report? But that's because Lord Strongheart forbade you from including it. Just like Mama, I'm sure she was coerced by somebody too. Yes, that's my feeling as well. There's no doubt that there were powerful forces at play 10 years ago. The execution couldn't have been staged without a lot of people at the prison knowing about it. Obviously, the prison governor must have been in on it as well. The big mouth, the little handcuffs. According to what he told us, he was tricked by the chief warder. He says he knew nothing about it. Of course he said that. I'd say the same thing. Just who was behind that jailbreak all those years ago? You mentioned the autopsy of Clint Van Zieks. It was at a time when carrying out autopsies of murder victims was very unusual. It's still not a practice that's observed in our country even now. It turned out that he was the professor's final victim, and when the autopsy was performed, Mama was present, although only as a secondary assistant. The person leading the procedure was called Dr. John H. Wilson. Ah. That's right, my daddy! And there was one other person present, the primary assistant. It was a visiting student from the Far East. No. Wait, a visiting student. It must have been my father, Eugene Mikotoba. I had no idea Professor Mikotoba had been involved with something so important. But the outcome of that historic autopsy was the discovery of a vital piece of evidence that led to the capture of the professor. So that's how they came to identify Genshin Asugi as the infamous mass murderer. You happen to know anything about that piece of evidence? Can you tell us any more? Would you like to see the records for yourself? What? Would that be alright? What's the point of keeping records if people can't look at them? They're filed under V at the back of those cupboards, while the other records are with the other records from the last decade. Thank you! Let's see. Anzieks. Anzieks. That's strange. What, Mr. Naruto? They aren't here. There's nothing under Van Zeeks. There must be. Perhaps somebody took them away. No one's allowed to take documents related to the Professor case out of this room. But you're right. They're gone. Well, when was the last time somebody looked at them? Do you remember? It was... Oh yes, I remember now. It was 2 years ago now. A consulting detective came one day saying that he'd like to see the records. No, you don't mean... Herlock Sholmes was his name. Deep down, I knew that was coming. Do you think he stole the records? Oh no, surely not. Iris, that can't be right, can it? Iris. Well then. Runo. I hope you don't mind, but... What is it, Iris? I just remembered something very important I have to do. I'm going to leave you now. This is very sudden, Iris. Well, we'll come with you then. Oh, no. There's no need. You and Runo can take your time here. Bye for now then. Good luck. How would you look at the time? Wait a minute, little girl. Huh? Me. I remember now. You've been here before, haven't you? Iris? Have you, Iris? Yes, 2 years ago, when that detective came. You were here with him, weren't you? You were a living specimen then, too. But that's the way it usually works, yes. Was I? I really don't remember. Anyway, sorry, but I must dash. Wait, Iris. I'll bring up a point when you get home. Damn. What's the matter with her? She's behaving really strangely all of a sudden. Well, in that case, we won't keep you any longer either. It's been a while since I had any visitors. That was really fun. But next time you come, I'd prefer if you were ready for a dissection. I can't make any promises, sorry. It's a bit strange that the records of Clint Van Zeeks' autopsy have disappeared. But I think we've asked all that we came to ask now. The police are still busily investigating in here then. But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she? Yes, it's been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Now she's out investigating on her own, practicing what her boss taught her. Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait? Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there? We can always use the time to investigate more thoroughly. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it? Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs. There's some initials on the outside, look. TG. Tobias Gregson. Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here. Oi! What do you think you're doing? That's my trunk, that is! Hands off! Gina! Where are you hiding? I don't know. You leave something unintended for a few seconds and every Tom, Dick, and Ari's got greedy eyes on it. Just a wild guess, Gina, but... What? Spit it out, Otto! Is it fair to say you've only owned that trunk since this morning's trial? What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. As always. Always has. Where you have been last year? Try not to incur your wrath, mainly. You should hear him talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them pledges. Ah, you mean the whole Reaper thing? Yeah. Apparently, the boss was investigating stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals who got off scot-free. Yes, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zeeks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction. Initials stand for the Gina, obviously. Oh damn, you're right. Well then, obviously, it was that Bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, wasn't it? But why would people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings? There was a notebook hidden in his office. Oh no, this doesn't sound good. It had details about all the crimes that have been pegged as the Reaper's work. What? No. Did you see it, Gina? Did you see that notebook? They wouldn't flame and let me. 'Cause I'm just an apprentice, apparently. But it was me who found it, and he was my boss. That's right. I was pretty miffed about it, so I stayed to peek out what it said anyway. Oh, that's our Gina. So, you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you? The way I see it, it's my right to read what he wrote. And what had he written, Gina? See, dates, times, places, names, a whole long list of them. All details about the bludgers are supposed to have been done in by the Reaper. But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly, that's what I said. That's the first thing you'd think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognized anyway. Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known as known leaders of London's criminal underworld. Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end that was a bit odd. At the end of the list, you mean? I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st October. Oh, the day before the inspector was found dead. So, what was the odd name? It wasn't like a name I've ever seen before. It was something like, Nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was the English name, put it that way. Oh dear, what a pity. There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin, it was. Don't suppose it means anything, but... Did you just say... Shin? Eh? Well, what? It does mean something. Lord Van Zeeks knew the name too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we find out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina? Well, of course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating and that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened. The day before? That would be the undercover investigation into the Red-Headed League then. Only the boss didn't go, did he? He found some cove what was pretending to be him, didn't you, Otto? Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day posing as Gregson. Well, anyway, you ain't the only one turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results. When me and me partner here get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Oh, little Toby. He's such a faithful friend. So, have you tracked anything down then? What do you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't tell you though, police business. Anyway, the point is, if you lot ever need any help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the around here. Right, because he looks so hellish, to be honest. Gina, what's your hellhound there? The Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's a part of the force, he is. In Japanese, police dog means something quite different, and not altogether nice to those involved in crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least. It should be, after all. In the great exhibition case the other day, it was Toby here who managed to locate Drebba's workshop. Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what the super dog can do, eh? We have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of, I wonder.
Take that!
Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. He might be a little too keen, don't you think? The Chief Inspector made short work of Gina there. Ah, look what he's gone to. Oh my, that trunk clearly still has a very strong scent of Inspector Gregson. In other words, it must have belonged to him. Oh, alright, it's a fair cop, I suppose. And he nearly got away with it too. You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what he can achieve. Did not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, weren't it?
If it weren't for you meddling lawyers and my dog.
That's enough now then, Gina. Eh? I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk. It weren't like that, it just weren't. What are you talking about? I know what's going on through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened. Alright then, what did happen? Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. As soon as I'd done that, he went off like a shot. And straight to that sandwich. A sandwich? Not a bag of chips? It's the Naruto. I believe Gina means the witness. Ew. Oh, forgot about that sandwich. Yeah, he had it between, he had it hidden between between the wooden boards of his, the boss's trunk. Ah. You mean, when they heard the sound like a gunshot? When they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in here. Exactly, he nabbed it from the scene. Goodness. Me and the Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what he said? I thought it might fetch a good price. The chap wouldn't be needed to eat anymore, so that's all I did. Nothing more than wonder I don't need the cheek of it, eh? Steal the boss's stuff to flog.
Grilled sandwich. Mmm.
So, Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime then. How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. And that's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured I might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well, maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. I think that perhaps that trunk should be turned over to the police, don't you? What do you want about? I am the police! Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it? Yeah, alright then. Do what you want with it. Thank you. We shall make a detailed report of our examination of the evidence.
I'm sorry, I'm hungry too.
Let's have a look inside. Look, there's something inside. Oh, let's see. It appears to be a passport authorizing him to travel overseas. Was Inspector Grayson about to go on a trip abroad then? Perhaps the date of the departure might tell us something. That was... oh, what is it? Earth will travel on the 31st October, just one day before the incident. What? Really? Grayson went to France, the day before his body was discovered.
Oh god. Wait.
A blade? Did you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk here. It's glinting. Looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged in so tightly I can't remove it. Well, don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think. Have you seen this huge gash, across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the leather into the metal behind. Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged, whoever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force. I wonder how it happened.
Oh dear god.
Look at this dark stain here. Do you think... Yes, I'm afraid so. It's blood. Ah, I knew you were going to say that. So presumably that means that this was present at the scene when Inspector Grayson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes. I think Gina's been carrying this around with her. Didn't know any better. I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips.
Wait. Permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. What?
What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden? Mr. Naruto, be careful. It must be the trunk. Ah! Toby, oi! What are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off! Mr. Naruto! Mr. Naruto! Gina, quickly, hail a carriage!
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Oh, Mr. Naruto, are you alright? Susara. Ah, conscious again at last. A blessed relief, my dear fellow. After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier, most unseemly. What is or isn't seemly is irrelevant here, Mr. Sholmes. I'm so glad there's no lasting damage. How are you feeling? I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? Ah, what's this on my head? A bandage. Sadly, we had no ice, so that's a compress of sugar water. Sugar water? Don't worry, Mr. Naruto. It's a first aid treatment that my father taught me. Oh, thank you. So, let us take tea, will you, when you're feeling up to it? But of course, no sugar in the patient's cup. The pump in my head is throbbing sweetly enough, don't worry. Whenever you feel ready then. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say, I was quite startled when I heard that you'd been attacked by a dog. For a moment I feared that infamous murderer of so many had come back from the dead. You mean, the professor? Fortunately, I see your prized throat is unscathed. That stiff, turned-up collar of yours obviously afforded some welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I really remember is the dog licking my face over and over and over again. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in the future, a little mustard spread on the cheeks should do the trick. I should think that would balance the sweetness of your bandage rather splendidly. Yeah, I can go for some food after this.
Mit dem Schwarzbiergebot brodelt wie ein Feuerberg, den Schlund es mir verbrannt, ach Hopfen deine Wut. Herr mit dem Knacker ich befahl, hat wie ein Diamant.
Wait, is that the teapot? Did it break? What the fuck? Also, is that German? What? What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream? Ah, no. It's an old German folk song. Rather a fine rendition, I think. That's the least of my concerns. Iris, what's the matter? Who is that sprawling, relaxed gentleman over there? Iris, is she even listening? Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing so merrily, but would you be kind enough to explain this situation? Oh, that worked. A brooding gentleman and a mute young girl. A rather tantalizing juxtaposition. And one that appears to have incited the gods of deduction within me to find their voices too. Ah, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Oh my god, are we really doing this? The strains of reasoning within me are playing now as a delightful duet. One melody sings of a reunion full of nostalgia. Oh. Wait a fucking minute. Whilst the other is a morose theme about the great secrets you're desperately trying to conceal, Iris. She's turned as white as a sheet. So as usual, you've instantly seen to the very heart of the matter. And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Music Land, where all is sweetness and delicacy and harmony. Pray, do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular! Oh, I love how the different silhouettes there, like without his coat and everything. Man's identity. Firstly, we must consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German, with no grasp of the English language. As evidenced by the Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. Sholmes, you're a fucking dumbass. So why is the man here at all, and in apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright young eyes to unravel that particular part of this mystery. The reason for that man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. You obviously offered our German guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirit soar, and resulted in this joyful ditty tumbling incessantly from his lips. I eagerly await sampling the flavor myself, that I may join the fellow in a state of elation. Now to the next question. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived at my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottsrick Sigismund von Ormstein. Sholmes, you fucking dumbass! Oh my god. The King of Germany! If my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to the King of Germany. It would appear that His Majesty remembers the fine service I afforded him, and has decided to show his face again, mask and all, in order to express his gratitude. A well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? So, the identity of this masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the Great Exhibition. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. A £5 note, I believe I must say, as your compatriot I'm deeply saddened. It would appear that you have allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness, earning yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the King's secrets. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. What is this secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah yes, we need only follow that brief involuntary twitch of your eyes to find the answer. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup. It appears that His Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of his hijinks. Which leads us to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cup has been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you try to conceal it from me. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement.
Oh my god, this is so fucking stupid.
Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this painful puzzle.
Mit dem Schwarzbiergebot brodelt wie ein Feuerberg.
With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial warbling rings rather rings in the ears, does it not? Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me.
Oh, pray, Mr. Sato, do tell.
His Royal Highness doesn't appear to have moved the muscle since we've moved. Ah. And you haven't said a word either, Iris. If Mr. Sholmes has it all right, you might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning isn't entirely without substance, I must admit. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Here's another grievance, Mr. Naruto. Surely not. Well, actually, I read the story of that case recently. The one you were just describing. According to that, at least, it wasn't the King of Germany. It was the King of Bohemia. Goodness. Oh, was it? Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite a scandal. I believe, Mr. Naruto, that it's our turn now to make some corrections to a number of minor errors that may have slipped in. Yes, even Mr. Sholmes is willing to admit he might be slightly wide of the mark this time. Although it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. We need to find out the truth behind this mysterious scene. But one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. So, shall we embark again on a joint presentation of Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular? Ho there, Mr. Sholmes. Firstly, we must consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language. As evidenced by the dramatic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. So, why is the man here at all? And at such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright young eyes and unravel that particular part of this mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. So what? Some mix of herbs that gives you the urge to sing? Goodness, I'll think to try some. And I like to hear your singing, but this man, just how long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose? As I said, he's been stuck still the entire time. If you look closely, his lips aren't moving either. Ah. I'm not sure what's actually responsible for the spirit is singing, but I suspect the answer lies at the end of Iris's gaze.
Take that!
The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the gramophone. Indeed, for no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song when making a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all. In fact, it would appear that the fellow is unconscious.
Diamant.
Ah, the music seems to have stopped now. I asked you, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? Well, never mind. On with the deduction. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin had engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. It required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived in my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund von Ornstein, the King of Germany. If my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to the King of Germany. Though we already established that it was actually the King of Bohemia. And it seems Mr. Sholmes intends to persist with his Germany theory for some reason. Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he? Master Gotz, the boy whom you had in tears. Don't remind me, or anybody else. You suppose members of the aristocracy of mainland Europe wear masks? I'm sure they do. Well, probably. Anyway. The point is, that mask doesn't belong to any king. No, that's right. As we well know, because we can identify the true owner of this mask.
Take that!
Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to Kazuma Asugi. In other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you could try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask has been languishing on this metal chest for several days. But that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now. It is now a simple matter to determine, I guess, true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious. We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask and peer beneath it. I don't believe it. Father! I'm afraid, Mr. Sato, you must be mistaken. No, I think not, Mr. Sholmes. Then it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. This mysterious visitor is my unconscious father, Ryuji Mikotoba. Yeah, it's so nice that she joined us for this little bit. Logic and reasoning, or just looking and saying. God. I know, like, I guess to some people might view like all the logic and reasoning stuff like very redundant, but man, it's just fun. Even if it's like essentially like the same deal over and over again without too many twists to the formula here, it's still fun. Just to see everyone just go ah and like twirl around. That's the thing that gets me the most. The finger snapping, the spotlight, and then twirling around the scene. It just like makes the whole process better. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. Is easily your favorite part of Great Ace Attorney? Oh, definitely. Like, it's so much like silly fun. Even if they haven't shaken up the formula too much from the first game to this game with like with how to conduct this,
It's really fun.
But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. So that's a £5 note poking out from Iris's knapsack, is it? Oh dear, I can't be sure. Most money we encounter is in coin form. I know. I'm not even sure if I've seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we? But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence. He certainly seems like a silent type himself, though. Judging by his present state, there must be some other reason for Iris's silence, I suppose. Perhaps what Iris is trying so hard not to give away with her eyes is something completely different.
Oh, is this all I can look with? Let's take a look at that anyways.
Now that I think about it, Iris always wears that little bag on her back, doesn't she? Yes, that's right. Though it's easy to forget about because you can't see it from the front. There are two little felt dolls attached to it as well. Are there? I have no idea. I don't remember seeing them before. Is it possible there's always a £5 note poking out from her bag that I just haven't noticed before too? I couldn't say with absolute certainty, but I think it's unlikely.
Oh, I didn't notice it was actually open.
This metal chest, it contains important documents, doesn't it? Yes, details of all the cases Mr. Sholmes has worked on over the years. Written up by Iris's father, if I remember correctly. Iris insists that the chest is kept locked at all times. She's never once shown me inside. Well, its contents are invaluable to her, I suppose, and entirely irreplaceable. But look at it now. The catch is unlocked for once. Ah, so it is. That's hard to ignore. Harry, I've never seen that chest unlocked before in all the time we've been staying here at Baker Street.
Take that!
Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that metal chest. An excellent observation, for upon closer inspection, there's something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now, the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. But it's a simple enough matter to incite you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need to open this chest. Here we go. No! Hurley, don't! Mr. Sholmes! Hurley! He's dead. Never. Oh, Hurley, I told you not to open it. Ah, so you found your voice now, Iris. Ah, in other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is... This is somewhat different to the usual dance of deduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it? Well, he's left me all alone in the ballroom floor, so I'm going to have to dance this next part solo. Anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this, for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so... You mean you don't actually know the answer yet, despite that knowing point of the finger there? Mr. Sato, Sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later. Oh, well, if you say so. I think we better examine ours more closely and try to rescue the situation then. That's a key she's holding. Look. I'm sure that wasn't in her hand before, wasn't it? Or was it? No, you're quite right. It appeared as if by magic. That's strange. A big old iron key. Where did it materialize from?
Take that!
Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is that key behind your back. Ah, when Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before. Just before you called out to try and stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hands. No doubt the key to the chest. You're so clever, Runa. So now it becomes clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can well imagine what happened here. But Professor Mikotoba also opened that metal chest, only to be punched into the air and land sprawled on the settee. But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf and the cup of tea, and above all, how would he be wearing Cosmo-sama's mask? Well, for those curious details, I can think of only one explanation. Clearly, an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. Oh no. When Professor Mikotoba opened the chest, completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flung into the air, just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when it fell back down. Oh my fucking god. And the teacup's journey through the air ended when it caught on the unconscious professor's finger. You mean to say that the stylish scarf is actually just a tablecloth? This is the great detective's office after all, a place of miraculous deductions. Would you expect anything less?
I love how Suicider joined in for that too.
Yes, you're right. It happened exactly as you said.
Flashbacks of the cloak landing on the bus in 2-3. Ugh.
Brilliant, Runa. This concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction of this punchy puzzle. So then, why don't I make a fresh pot of tea for all of us?
Objection!
Oh! Oh my god! Oh my god, he actually said it! Oh, hold on! Holy shit! The mad lad has a voice! Or actually no, I think Sholmes said something before, right? But anyways, I don't think I heard her say objection.
An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show here, you rather missed everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes, if you will cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. Iris, clearly you're hiding a great secret. She is, from the look on her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. Whatever that great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So, I put it to you again. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. It really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup. It must have been smashed when Professor Mikotomo opened the chest. Oh dear, so many things seem to have broken here. But now that the deduction has taken a different direction, Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore. In other words, her great secret is something else. Let's put our observational skills to work here one final time then.
I wonder, can you... Where else can you look at in this room? Probably the knapsack. Can we look at the chest? No, I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure they just want to see like what's actually on Iris, but yeah.
Surely this time at last, the knapsack is going to be the answer. I'm not really sure why you're so intent on showing Iris's bag to be complicit in these events. Because it's a sizable bag, big enough to carry things around, Mr. Naruhodo. That's what bags are for. So, the knapsack might never see the limelight, you mean? I really would like to say.
Take that!
Ooh. I don't think I heard this part of the song before. Or maybe I didn't remember it.
You were attempting to abscond with that case file! Iris, as you very well know, nothing escapes the attention of a great detective! Oh no! We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today. And Mr. Gory informed us.
Or Dr. Gory. Bleh. God, sleep in my brain. Come on. Just last a little bit longer for the end of this thing. Stop messing up letters.
The autopsy reports of Clint Van Zieks had gone missing. Clint Van Zieks. Yes. I do seem to recall. That some years ago I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? You mean, it was you, Iris. So those papers you have there are... I'm sorry. Forgive me!
Oh, you made Iris cry! What the fuck, Ryunosuke? Never mind, Sholmes. Just blame... just blame Ryunosuke anyways.
Elementary. In truth, I like to have thought I could have predicted the booby-trapped chest. But it caught me completely off guard. I was very nearly the late consulting detective Herlock Sholmes. I'm sorry, Hurley. So you mean this autopsy report really is... Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I knew it was very important. Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris? Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I'd been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it.
Oh no. Oh no.
I knew it was Daddy's. The writing. Your father's writing. What you really mean? Iris, it must be something that's hard for her to talk about.
Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it?
Oh. I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the settee has been somewhat forgotten. Ah, father! Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? We must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll help you carry him up. So will I. No, I can manage it alone, thank you. You have tea to enjoy. We wouldn't want Iris's brood to stew. Because there's no better way to make the professor comfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I wonder, perhaps that was deliberate. Perhaps maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris the chance to talk more freely. We must use this opportunity to talk with Iris and find out what's going on. Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father? I'm sure I told you before, didn't I? That Daddy used to be Hurley's partner. Yes, and that notes about all the cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest. That's right. Hurley told me, you see. He said that Daddy's somewhere far away now, so we can't meet. That's one way of describing it. Then, when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like. Well, that's only natural. You're just like any other girl of your age. I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, so I studied and took my degree too. Well, that's only natural, I suppose. In that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though. But there was one thing that I could never find out. Daddy's name. Oh. Ah. His name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he'd made about his work with Hurley. But then one day... That's what happened, isn't it? When you saw this autopsy report, you finally managed to work it out. Is that right? Yes. So it was the handwriting in the report that caught her eye. When I saw the writing on that report, I could hardly believe it. I know that handwriting. I thought to myself. Because it was the same writing as you'd seen on your father's case notes. Exactly. I was desperate to compare the two properly. I needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor inside the laboratory, and I was told I couldn't take the report away. Even worse, I was told that the first and last time we'd be allowed to even look at it there. So you decided to steal it. When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's. And the signature of the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report. Read Dr. John H. Wilson. So that's how I finally found out. I learned Daddy's name at last. I see. Ever since then, I've called myself Iris Wilson. That's also when I had the brilliant idea of writing stories about writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times with Hurley. I decided there then I'd write The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you. I can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. This is really all my fault. Harley, I made a promise, you see, and until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret. I know. I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gory and apologize, I promise. Yes, we'll go together, I think. Then, let me look after it until we get there.
So we can look at it ourselves.
I must go and water my herbs, I think. I'll see you all later. Poor Iris. She must be feeling awful. I know Mr. Sholmes is here for her, but still. Ah! What? How? What is the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes?
Mr. Sholmes?
Oh dear me. So, you've noticed, I see.
Recent scarlet ink stains visible, but no document and corresponding ink was found. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. No internal trauma.
What? That would mean? What on earth is the matter, Mr. Sato? You've turned as white as a sheet. It's this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo. The one from 10 years ago. The writing isn't Dr. Wilson's at all.
Huh?
What do you mean? How could you possibly know that? Because I know this writing very well. This writing is my father's. What? Professor Mikotoba's. Indeed, it's true. And now you know. My dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all this mean, Mr. Sholmes? Because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind, it's just too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. So, this autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikotoba then? Well, that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely. Not possible, my dear fellow. Pray, take a deep breath and think again. Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense. It does? 10 years ago is when my father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain. And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikotoba engaged? Ah, of course! He was an assistant in Dr. Wilson's laboratory, learning about forensic science. And as an assistant, he would have aided with the dissection work, making detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put his signature on the document. In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end. I see. So Iris got the wrong end of the stick, you mean? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. John H. Wilson. Which is very understandable, of course. What a complicated situation. Thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, comes from the published stories of your exploits. Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris. And we really have no way of knowing what is fact and what is fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So what's this about, what about this supposed partner of yours? Does he really exist or not? Ah, so you've come straight to the point, I see. And please come straight to the answer. I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade, and the only person I could truly have called a friend. And did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest? Absolutely, my dear madam. Absolutely. So, where's your partner now? We rarely meet. You see, he lives on the other side of the world. With this autopsy report and the records of all your old cases were penned by the same hand. And if the autopsy report was written, though not signed by your famous partner, there would be only one logical conclusion. Pray, impress me. Your partner would have to be Yujin Mikotoba. In other words, Mr. Sato's father. On my word. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. You are coming along wonderfully. You've hit upon the method. At last. You've finally grasped the art of deduction. You mean to say... Allow me to introduce you. To my great friend and partner, Mikotoba. Professor Mikotoba? Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson? Oh, no, dear. I'm still my old self. Yujin Mikotoba, your father. Oh, of course. This is obviously too much for Susato-san to take in. I must say, though, how my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity, has attained worldwide celebrity as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Ah, pray remind me, when was it again, Mikotoba? 16 years ago now, Sharms. Ah yes, quite, 16 years ago. I just arrived from Japan with Seishiro and Genshin. I was in search of lodgings close to the hospital. Some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. But rents are devilishly high in that particular area. That's right, so I decided I needed someone to share lodgings and the expense. And was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of the great detective you see before now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for little gain. And the situation for our cohabitation led us to pursuing cases together, you see. Hard to believe, it was a mere 6 years. We had a great many adventures. But in the last year of Mikotoba's stay in Britain, that most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you've become rather familiar yourselves. The Professor killings. After the trial, Seishiro and I were summoned back home. Hardly surprising given the circumstances. So there you have it. As you know, all the details are recorded by my trusty chronicler. Remain in that metal chest. This is just amazing. Professor Mikotoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner. Father. Goodness, my dear. What a cutting look. As your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery I really must ask you to explain now. And that is... You know very well what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris's father! Ah, of course! I'd almost forgotten about that one. I should have seen this coming, I suppose. Iris told us that all the notes about the great detective's adventures that are in that metal chest were written by her father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes? That is indeed what I told young Iris. But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, father, you were all those case notes, then Iris's father must be you.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on a minute. Susato, whoa, wait.
Oh. Upon my word, Miss Susato. You're coming along wonderfully as well. You too have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction.
Wait. Oh shit. Nah, they're full of shit.
What you've always told me, father, is that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago. And you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your study tour of Britain. And I've always accepted that. But all this about Iris. Oh, there it is. Susato-san's ice-cold stare. No, now hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think.
Professor Mikotova, what'd you do? Well, more like who?
Then perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is. There it is. Now the eyes go from ice cold to red hot. Just before he... No, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Sholmes, say something, man.
Oh, he changed fast.
That's quite enough, my fiery fellows.
But Mr. Sholmes,
when you get all dressed up? Whilst I don't like to interrupt this exciting exploration of the past, Mikutoma and I have an urgent matter that requires a short excursion. It is very late, Mr. Sholmes. Where must you go? Why, my dear madam, is it not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies.
Gravity?
Nah. So, get your coat, Mikutoma. The game is afoot. But Mr. Sholmes, I really must give Susato a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage waits downstairs already. You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really, I visited our home after 10 long years. And when I open that chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably pass out. And as if that weren't enough, when I eventually regain consciousness, I'm plunged straight into all this. Father, please, go with Mr. Sholmes now. What? I have no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interests. I trust you, completely. Susato. And sending the greatest detective and his great partner off on renewed adventures together is more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams. Very well then. We'll speak again later. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Yes, Naruhodo. Good luck in battle, and in reaching a decision. A decision? About whether to go back to Japan, I suppose.
So much happened that day that I barely knew what to do with myself. It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth, and that all the turmoil was necessary to give me the resolve to see everything through.
He said part of the title. Roll the credits. God, I love this song so much. Wait, end? Wait. Wait. End? Final. The resolve of Ryunosuke. Naruto. Oh, goddamn. I didn't think Oh. Well, this is a great time to stop then, goddamn. I'm sleepy as fuck. Okay, then we'll get to the finale tomorrow. I better rest up and get ready then. We're in for one hell of a case then. Alright.